You are first to go. Nick.
Thank you, first and foremost, for a really splendid panel. It gave us so much to think about. I wanted to pose my question to Minister of External Affairs, but to pick up on a question essentially which NK began. We've talked a lot about growth and resilience, and particularly, of course, growth and resilience in India. My question is that, would you recognize a strategy that says we actually build our resilience through growth by investing in the technologies of the future, by investing in a way that builds on the strengths that India has and that you described so clearly? So in other words, this is a moment to increase investment in India. This is a moment to work very hard on making it rather more efficient, and of course to invest in a way which embraces the technologies of the future. To use one sporting analogy, I think when it comes to energy, China is skating to where the puck is going, and the United States is skating to where the puck used to be. And India, I think, can look through that, and this is where the economics comes in, invest where the costs are actually attractive over the medium term, and which builds on India's extraordinary strengths in its natural resources, particularly solar, and of course its people.
Thank you. Minister will take all the 4 questions together, give the shortage of time. Next, you want to ask a question? Jean-Pierre Lando?
Yeah, it's a question for the Minister as well. To which extent are geopolitics going to be driven by technological competition between the main powers? How would you assess the chances of China overcoming the US in major technologies? And how do you assess the role of India in that competition?
Next question. I don't see any hands raised this side. If he can. This side? Yes. Wonderful. Yeah. Dr. Jaishankar.
So I want to pose a hypothetical. The case on tariffs in the United States is in the Supreme Court, and we'll probably hear it sometime during this month. Suppose that the Supreme Court rules against President Trump and says, well, you really don't have this power. How do you see that impacting both India and the rest of the world?
Thank you. Last question, Dr. Rakesh Mohan.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, for really a very thoughtful and thought-provoking address. There was a mention of India diversifying its trade, given what's happening with the US in particular, I would suppose. How do you see the prospects of India diversifying its trade more towards Asia? And given that the huge trade deficit we have with China, the only way in some sense to go for diversifying trade with China is for us to be exporting more to them. And do you see any prospects for that? And do you see any possible segue towards India possibly thinking of proceeding towards joining the CPTPP?
All right. Minister.
Okay, I'll make my comments and perhaps my fellow panelists would like to add to it. Yes, I mean, this is with regard to Nick's question. Yes, absolutely. I think today our challenge is to build manufacturing because, you know, there were decades where, in a sense, I would call it lost decades, where manufacturing certainly was concerned in this country. So we have to play catch-up in many areas, but not play catch-up in a way in which we miss the contemporary opportunities. So if you look today at the kind of policies the priorities which the government is pushing, so you look at semiconductors, you look at electric vehicles, you look at renewables, you look at drones, I think we need to do both advanced manufacturing as well as, you could say, orthodox ones, and try to, get the optimal mix of it. And you have to do that because at the end of the day, it is technology which is going to make a big difference. And certainly, when one looks at the promise of potential of AI, for me this year, probably, I was at Munich the day J.D. Vance delivered his famous speech. But I was a few days before with the Prime Minister at the AI summit in Paris, where also J.D. Vance spoke about AI and the, the revolutionary possibilities it holds if we don't restrict it. We ourselves are holding an AI Impact Summit next year. So today, if there is an X factor, I would say, again, I'm giving it to you from my perspective, in terms of the capabilities of countries and their sharpening ability to compete, a lot of it would be technology and certainly would center around AI. On the question of, geopolitics and technology, yes, historically, a lot of geopolitics has been driven by technology. In fact, I tomorrow would be going back to my alma mater, and my own PhD subject was how nuclear technology coming in the early 40s as the Second World War was going on actually ended up shaping the attitudes of the major powers to each other, and in a way became the conceptual strategic foundation of what later on became the Cold War. So geopolitics has to a large extent been a function of technology competition for centuries, and there's no reason it should be any different now. And where the US stands vis-a-vis China, again, it's very hard to give a sweeping answer. But the fact is that in many areas, clearly the US is going to get a run for its money, which would not have been the case a few decades ago. And these are, I would say, instructive for a country like India, which is, how do you build those deeper strengths? How do you create a workforce? The startup culture, the entrepreneurship, the institutions, really to look at imbibing, absorbing, and creating technology. The hypothetical question you asked is very difficult to answer because it is hypothetical. I think I deal in a world of realities, and my reality right now is at 25% and 25%, a 50% tariff. And that is what right now we are negotiating. So, whatever happens, at the end of the day, there has got to be a trade understanding with the United States. There has to be one because it is the world's largest market, but also because it is, much of the world has reached those understandings. But it has to be an understanding where our bottom lines, our red lines are respected. In any agreement, there are things you can negotiate and there are things you can't. And I think we are pretty clear about that. And we have to find that landing ground. And that's been the conversation really which has been going on since March. Finally, on diversifying trade, moving towards Asia. Most of our initial free trade agreements were actually almost all with Asia. They were with ASEAN, they were with Japan, Korea. They were individually with some ASEAN members. And the challenge today which we face is that in many ways these are economies which are competitive. And in many cases, because of the supply chain nature, they have also provided a pathway for China. So I would very honestly say our focus should be on FTAs with economies that are not competitive, where there is really a deep, sustainable, predictable, and real market economy at work. Which is why we are very pleased with the UK FTA. which is why we are very serious about an EU FTA, and which is why we are striving for an understanding with the United States.
Well, did you want to chip in to say one word, since the Minister said that in case the panelist wishes to respond to any of the questions?
I'll say one thing quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. I think on Chinese technology, I think finally people have realised this old idea that since China is a state-led economy, it can't be innovative, it can't be creative. That's completely wrong. And we're still coming to grips with understanding the Chinese system. When Japan was beating the world, whole libraries were devoted to new Japanese management techniques, just in time, etc. So I think we kind of need to do the same thing with the Chinese system, you know, the Chinese factory, whatever, as well. Yeah, I mean, China has speed and scale. Yes, they waste a lot of capital, but they've done much more than that in skilling their workforce on so many different levels technically. So I think, you know, however you see it, you know, whatever you think of China, their achievements are formidable.
Okay. Jean-Claude?
Only to say that the human resource of India, and I understand the kind of lucidity you have on the medium and long-term chances and challenges of India is such that I have to say that it reminds me the kind of confidence I was myself experiencing years and years and years ago in South Korea, where they had the feeling that nothing was impossible. And in India today, and your own speech and the speeches of the members of the government give me the impression that you have attained a level of confidence in the long-term, I would say, evolution of your own country that is the promise of a catching up exercise of first magnitude equivalent to those we have observed in the past in Asia and are very, very impressive. So, and I re-say that the Indian growth and the Indian influence is part of a better world, in my opinion, in the future.
May I just add one sentence?
Please go ahead, Minister.
I would say that that very spirit also leads us, gives us the confidence that any trade agreement we would negotiate with anybody would be fair and balanced.